Hi, so today I wanted to start a series of videos to go through the proper steps of finding the right franchise for you, right? When you're researching a franchise, there is so much out there, thousands, right? It can be overwhelming. When you just go on one of the portals and you look it up, um, or start researching, usually you're going to find some of those top end franchises. The Empire franchises always come to mind. Um, that might be a lot harder to get into. Um, you may not realize everything that goes into them as well, or some of the franchises may not be as good as you think either, right? Um, so I want to go through these steps and finding the right one that works for you and what's not only the best fit for you, but can be the most profitable for you and give you what you want out of having your own business, right? There's a lot, again, there's a lot more out there than just those big ones that you think of that, we see the food franchises with the big signs and everything, right? There's a lot of other franchises out there that are emerging brands. So, um, they might be as little as have, uh, 10 locations and they've just started to expand. They may have only been franchising for a year or two, or they might be just in one state and they're trying to expand. Um, they might have 100 of them, but they're still considered an emerging brand, right? Because they're still pretty small compared to the whole country. When you if they only have 100 or 200 locations, um, it's not thousands of locations, right? Like you see the big fast food brands or sandwich shops or something like that, right? Plus, those might not actually fit you, and for you to make a lot of money in that, you may actually need multiple locations, right? So how quickly can you scale that, or do you have to buy them all at once? And it may actually turn you off when you get to that. So what I want to go through is a series of steps and what I do in a process to get you from thinking about being an entrepreneur all the way to owning your business. So in this first part, I want to go over step one. Okay. Um, and a little bit about what I do, or what another franchise broker would do. And most of us are going to be very similar in our processes. So, but I can also give you my background because I've done it before. Um, when when you're looking at a franchise, again, first step would be to call someone, call me or someone in my, the same job field who can help you out. Uh, I have a database of, several hundred or to probably close to 1,000 franchises in our inventory that I can look at that you may have never heard of before, but are doing very well and expanding. And sometimes it's good to get in early with some of those franchises as they're growing, instead of just jumping into one of those franchises that already has 1,000 locations across the country. Why not get into one that's early and be able to expand with them, right? Um, so, yeah, first step. So contacting someone like myself or me, um, and I can say that because when I got into a franchise, I owned a franchise for 10 years, and when I first got into it, I didn't use a broker. I didn't even know brokers existed. Okay, and I wish I did. I may have been in something different. Now, that's not saying I had a bad experience. I had a very good experience. Um, I sold my business after having it for 10 years. So, but I think I probably would have done something different, right? And um, I got into, I got into a resale. So I didn't even know that there was somebody out there. It took me forever too. Let me say that, right? I was still in the army and I was researching things for probably a couple of years, right? I was researching and then I had a deployment and then I come back and I was researching more. So, um, it took me a long time to narrow down what I wanted to do, what kind of business I really wanted to be in, and then finding the right one, and then meeting the people who had already owned it, right? So I was trying to figure out that process on my own. And if I would have had someone guiding me, it would have been a whole lot different. Okay. I wouldn't have had to go through all those steps and trying to figure everything out myself. I would have had someone doing it for me. And narrowing those things down and finding it would have been great. So, um, so to go into my process and what I do to help someone like yourself. Um, so first we get on the phone, and honestly, I like to have just a casual conversation and also an interview at the same time. So I go through a series of questions and going through and asking you as I talk to you and finding more about you, your experiences, what your goals are, um, your interests. Not only don't just do what you did previously if you were in the military. Well, what did you do there, or what you do in a previous career, or what you've been doing in college, right? So it might be something entirely different. Look at some of your interests. There might be something out there. Um, and also, what do you want out of it, right? What's your ultimate goal? And financial capabilities, right? Because we got to line up that financial capabilities because um, to make sure that when you get into the franchise, you're not blowing all your money, and you want to be able to have the money for operating expenses and be able to expand and grow, and not get eaten alive um, by a business, as you get started, right? Every business is going to have some time to take, a few months to really get moving. A franchise will help you get there faster because of the name recognition and marketing and the support, but you want to be able to have that backup, right? So we want to look at all these aspects and talk about it. And as I go through that, well, it helps me narrow down my search and my search criteria to find out what's the best thing for you. And I like to give at least, if we start off with 3 to 5 different franchises in different categories, like, in different industries, and see which one really sparks your interest when we go to start talking about it. So the other thing I would have you do before I even get to that, I'd send you an assessment too, right? And it's really just it's a business assessment that I have that looks at your sales technique, ask you questions about sales, management, leadership, and compares you into what you really want to do psychologically. Like, you may not even realize it. Asks you some strange questions, it seems like, but things you may have not have thought of before. So, but that helps me narrow down that search. So that would be the first step in finding out what franchise fits you. And then from there, we would go on to the second step as I would present them to you, right? After we figure them all out, we talk about it, discuss each one, and then see which one you like the best. And then we'd move on to step 2. So I'll do that video coming up with step 2 and how we would approach those franchises, and talking to them, and then begin the due diligence process. Because I would also help you go through that. Let's look at the disclosure documents, right? Let's look at, calling the other franchisees. There's, so all those steps we would go through. But to begin, we would sit down. I like to get on face to face. So I'm not just a telemarketer or something trying to sell you something, but we actually talk about it to make sure that the business is right for you, your family, your spouse may be involved, everything that goes into it, and making sure you're in the right franchise. Okay. If you have any questions, please contact me, and I hope to talk to you soon.